When you're talking to people about a management company and I guess offering what you guys do, how do you find your people and ascertain and get through the process with folks?
The light bulb moment for us came when we defined the type of property and the type of experience that we wanted to put out into the market. We went through a pretty rigorous process to create a filter that at least allowed us to sift through very quickly the properties that came to us to figure out if it was a good fit.
My name is Rodman Schley. As a real estate expert, I've invested millions of dollars in vacation properties all around the world, and I've been involved in the valuation of billions of dollars of properties. I want to share my 35 years of experience along with vacation home investment tips from the top minds in the short-term vacation rental industry. Now, let's do the work. Welcome to the Vacation Property Secrets Podcast. I'm your host, Rodman Schley, and today we're going to dive deep on property management with Adam Knight, a 25-year hospitality veteran who's worked as a general manager for luxury hotel brands like Fairmont and St. Regis. And he's led corporate operations for independent hotel companies in San Francisco and Seattle. He's the co-founder and CEO of Recreation Stays, a full-service vacation rental management company that specializes in luxury vacation homes. Adam, welcome to the show.
Rodman, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here today because you've been in the hospitality industry for a long time. And I don't want to, I've been around for a long time too. I hate to put our ages out there and say we're seasoned, but I feel like we're pretty seasoned.
We are. We're battle scarred for sure.
Yeah, it'll be great to have you here, talk a little bit about kind of what you've seen in the past, where you see the industry going, and most of all, what it takes to really be successful as a short-term vacation rental owner, because so many people, they get into the business, they don't look ahead far enough to go, okay, I know I've got the property now, but now what? And they're not thinking about, well, how am I going to accommodate people? How am I going to outperform in the market? How am I going to make sure that I've got my cleaning in place? How am I going to make sure that all these things that need to happen? And that's usually the afterthought. The first thought is I go make that emotional buy. I get really excited about something. I buy my first property, and then I'm like that deer in the headlights, like, now what?
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. We're happy to jump into all of that. I think that the big differentiator, though, maybe just to kick off the conversation between successful real estate investors who get into this and the ones who struggle are those who recognize that this is a hospitality business. This is not a real estate investment play. For some, maybe it is a little bit, but that has to be secondary or tertiary. If you're coming at it trying to squeeze every single penny out of this asset, it's going to be a rough go for everybody. You have to recognize that you're there to take care of people and make sure that they have great experiences and that they come back and sustain your business going forward. And the people that can make that distinction are the ones that tend to do a little bit better.
Well, it's very different than a traditional investment, say like a retail property or an office property where I get some 5-year tenants in there. I check in every once in a while. I get my rent checks, make sure that I'm accommodating what I need to do there. Here, it's nonstop. It's, okay, I've got somebody who's interested for a night. Now I've got an inquiry. Now I've got to get back with them. Now I've got to go in and try to get them booked in. And there's just so many moving parts over and over again. So like when you're saying it's a business, you're dead on. So many people think of it as just, I'll invest, I'll have this money coming in, it's going to be very passive. But that's the first big mistake they make.
It very much is. Yeah. And I'll tell you, like, even from my own personal experience, when I first got into this, and it's even more difficult today, you'll start to hear everybody saying, well, you need to get different kinds of software to do X, Y, and Z. And like, I promise you that there are dozens, if not hundreds of different software companies out there that are willing to take a little bit of a percentage or a little bit of oxygen away between you and your guest. And that just starts siphoning off a little bit of profitability as well. So we'll probably get into this today, but the software discussion and how you set your business up on the back end, it's a crucial one to have because you can overcomplicate and overspend so quickly. So that's another thing we should
and you bite into profitability, and then you wonder at the end of the year where your money's went out the door, right? So it is important to understand exactly how to maximize, and there's different levels and different situations for different people. Some people might like that self-management. Some people might like the hybrid management. Some people might just want to say, hey, you just take it and you just go with it and take care of it for me. But the great thing is that you also have those levels because it fits with different investment goals. But with your company, what type of person seeks out what you do as a management company?
Yeah, great question. So we are a vacation rental property management company. So what that means is if somebody has second, third, fourth home, if they're so lucky that they want to turn into a vacation rental, but they want to be completely hands off. They just say, you know what, you take it over and run everything A to Z for me. That's what we do.
Mm.
So the owners that we work best with are the ones who, not to put it so crudely, but just want to collect a check at the end of the month.
Mm. Yeah. And that's fine. Some people, again, not necessarily crudely, it's just some people have different objectives, right? Or
Mhm.
different goals. Are you looking to, make money, break even? Do you care if you even lose money? Some people just, it just depends on when you're buying and what you're buying for. Because a lot of people say, you know what, I'm just going to put this on for maybe a month out of the year, and then I'm going to be up there the rest of the time. Or
Yeah.
you got to look at all the objectives.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Actually, there's a relatively large handful of the houses that we manage right now are actively used by the owners for a certain percentage of the year. And the tricky part, actually, kind of funny down that thought path, is obviously we want to make sure that the asset performs as well as it can for an owner. Part of the discussion that, again, those who get into this, maybe they're thinking about buying a beautiful home in a beautiful location that they want to go stay in. And that's totally reasonable. Anybody would do that. But when you want it to be a vacation rental and you want to start making money off of it, if you want to be there when everybody else wants to be there, that's less bookable nights that are available for you to make money. So there's always this, it's a bit of a push and pull dance that goes on with owners who are actively using their homes just to make sure that they're not, that their financial goals can still be met if based on their personal use of the home.
Yeah, no, I can totally see that. We've got a property down in Costa Rica, and during the high season, it's almost fully booked. It's almost impossible for us even to get into it and get down there. But during September, when you're talking to people about a management company and I guess offering what you guys do, how do you help people kind of sort out where they're at? If you're the right person, if an all-in management company like yourself is best suited for them, or maybe one of the other two models is best suited for them too. How do you find your people and ascertain and get through the process with folks?
That's a great question. And I mean, to be perfectly honest, we're still trying to figure that out. Getting your message out there as a small company and getting in front of the right audience is something that literally every business in every industry is trying to do. Nobody's really figured it out in a way where to do that, you don't have to spend hundreds or thousands or millions of dollars, in advertising. So we're still figuring that out. But the light bulb moment for us came when we defined the type of property and the type of experience that we wanted to put out into the market. And there's an inflection point, especially when you start a new management company that does what we do, where you have to take anything because you got to cut your teeth on, running a vacation rental, and you've got to figure out what your systems are going to be. And, that's a whole other topic. But very quickly, you'll find that not every property is right for you and not every owner is right for you. So we went through a pretty rigorous process to create a filter that we at least allowed us to sift through very quickly the properties that came to us to figure out if it was a good fit. And once we were able to do that, then we enter into the discussions with the owner about, who we are and what we do, our service philosophy and why we do what we do and some of the programs that we have. And then through those discussions, you start to figure out, on both sides, if it's a good fit. Because that's another really important thing. We've worked with owners that weren't a good fit for our company, and we learned the hard way, and everybody was miserable. So you've got to create those filters up front, and it'll make your life a lot easier.
Well, I feel like too, property management is probably one of the most difficult pieces of this whole component. I mean, when you're talking about ownership and investing in short-term vacation rentals, I kind of feel like management is kind of like the most difficult, arduous, and just painful
Mhm.
part of the process at times. And
It
so
can be.
why did you sit there and go, you know what? I know that this is the most painful part of the process. That's what I want to do in life.
Well, let me take you back to when I was 17, when I got into the hotel industry. So my background's in hotel management, and I came up in the luxury hotel world primarily with the Fairmont hotel brand, if you're familiar with them, and the St.
Yes.
Regis hotel brand, if you know them. And I basically took every rung on the way up the ladder. Started as a pot washer and worked my way up to general manager with those two companies over the course of about 20 years. So it took some time. Moved all over the place, worked in many different hotels, different locations, different markets. I covered the gamut, which, very fortunate to have had the opportunity to do that. And then I went over into the independent hotel world. I took over a couple of VP of operations jobs for two independent hotel companies. And everything was, going along well. And then the pandemic happened.
Mm.
And, just like everybody else in the industry, we all got lost. I lost my job, just like, most of the folks in the hotel space at that time. And when that was going on, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with, at the time, 23, 24 years of hotel experience. What am I going to do with an industry that's crumbling around me and there's no prospects for jobs? And at the time, like, we didn't really know how this was all going to shake out. So I started to see and thinking back to crises that happened in the industry pre-COVID, because there was a lot. Like, there were 2008 comes to mind, the financial crisis back in that time, and there was all these little mini things along the way. And something that I recognized through personal experience was how the owners of the properties the owners of the hotels were the ones that had to foot the bill for everything. The brand was very rarely flexible in their programs, flexible in making sure that the owners were taken care of. At the time, it was just very much the brand is going to protect the brand and make sure the brand gets paid. And it doesn't really matter, what happens to the owner. Hopefully they're okay. And I saw some oxygen or some blue water, if you know, the blue or blue
Yes.
ocean, blue ocean, red
Yep.
ocean. Saw some blue ocean and figured that there's another way to approach making sure that that property owners are not the ones that are left holding the bag. That if you approach it more as a partnership and that, everybody's in it together, it's going to create a stronger bond with your owner and I think make your brand stronger, but that you're going to come out on the other side and hopefully you'll be able to reap the benefits of a stronger relationship, referrals and, all of those things. So at the same time, vacation rentals were really starting to pop off. And even still to this day, like, there's not a lot of overlap between hotel guys and vacation rental guys, but taking kind of everything that was going on at that time and always having a little bit of an entrepreneurial spark in me, and many conversations over many months, decided to start recreation with two aspects to it. The first was bringing the best of what makes the best hotels in the world operate and applying them to the vacation rental space and coming at it from an owner first mentality. Because guest first mentality, first of all, everyone does that. Secondly, that's table stakes. If you're not providing a great guest experience, you're going to fail.
Right.
But not a lot of people come at it making sure that the owners have a great experience. And so those were the two areas that we saw a little bit of room, and that was it.
That was your foundation. That's great.
Yeah.
It's funny you were talking about the franchises and the different flags on the hotels, and the thing about it's kind of like franchising. The goals are very different, right? If I'm an owner of a franchise, I'm really concerned about my bottom line, my NOIs. What is it going to be at the end of the year? And if I am the franchise, or if I am the franchise itself, my goals are different. I want top line. I don't care about what happens after the top line, where the owner cares about the bottom line. If I'm the franchise, or I want you to have a lot of sales so I can get my 5%, my 6%. And what happens after that's really irrelevant to me.
Exactly. And that's what happened during the pandemic, is a lot of brands early days didn't relax a lot of their brand programs. They weren't, especially in the franchise world, weren't providing the support that franchisee owners needed. And, we're not going to go back and relitigate all that. This is, anecdotal conversations that I was having at the time. And it just reinforced to me the need to find a way to better partner with owners, and that you could build a company and a brand around.
Yeah, and I've seen, there's a few management companies out there, some a few good sized ones, but to be honest, I see a lot of people being very complacent about those companies, and this relationship that you're talking about with the owners is one of those things where it's kind of like, I get it. I think that those types of companies, if you've got that type of a presence, and if people are saying the things online that they're saying about you, chances are good that it's because you're not owner centric.
Exactly. And, this comes back to what I was saying earlier about in the sales process and making sure that you find the right owner to work with. Because I will be the first to admit to you that we will most likely not run the most profitable property for you. If you're just looking to squeeze every dollar out of this place, we're not your company, because it takes so much judgment and finessing to create not just a great experience. So here, maybe I'll back up a little bit. So when you're setting up a property, you'll most likely go through a process of figuring out what kind of sheets I need to have and what kind of bath amenities I need to have and what am I going to provide in the home and all of that. And that's all well and good. But where two issues start to happen is that, number one, you don't have the processes in place to make sure that that the things that get used on a regular basis are either replaced or well maintained. And a lot of people coming at a property trying to squeeze every dollar out of it that they can will buy the cheapest items and hang on to them for way too long. And so the experience degrades quickly, and they're very reticent to go spend another $30 on a set of sheets, which you should spend more than $30 anyway. But they don't want to go do that because it's money out of their pocket. So that degrades the guest experience. The other thing, though, is the reverse, is that you overbuy and that you're just spending way too much money on things that don't matter. So what I'm saying is that, when we may not run the most profitable place that you could, is because we come at it from that perspective, is that we're not going to recommend or have a brand standard of the cheapest possible item that's going to wear out. We find a middle of the road item, but where we tend to lean in a little bit more maybe than others, bringing in that luxury hotel philosophy, is that when we do something wrong or something that we should have had control over as a management company, we're very quick to take responsibility for that. So if a guest has a bad experience because of X, Y, and Z, we don't fight them and look for justification to try to maybe give them a rebate. We'll oftentimes just try to make a situation a little bit better, give somebody a rebate. Maybe it's sending them an amenity because something went wrong. So maybe you don't have to give money back, but you got to spend, $50 on sending them a box of pastries from a local bakery. But the other thing that we do that's, and this is on us here, this is profitability for our company in particular. The other thing that we lean really heavily into is putting our money where our mouth is. And we have something that's right up front. It's on our website. You may have seen it if you were going through it, called the Recreation Guarantee. And it's if we don't earn a 5-star review on a reservation, we don't charge our management fee on that booking. And there's obviously some fencing and some caveats to that, but it's a really clear way to say, we're in it with you. We're not just going to run this place potentially into the ground, which if you read any forums about a lot of large management companies, you start to see some patterns in conversation that no, if we don't do the things that we say we're going to do, then we shouldn't be paid. So that's, again, kind of coming back to that, making sure owners are looked at.
Yeah. So somebody comes in, I mean, if you're talking, so you guys are pretty full service, sounds like number one. So, somebody who's out there, listen, I want to be I don't want to be totally hands off, but I want to put the management in somebody else's hands. And so I don't have to worry about the cleaning. I don't have to worry about getting maintenance out there, or if somebody's calling at midnight, they're not calling me, they're calling, I'm assuming you guys, those kind of things. Now, what kind of percentage are people looking at in that scenario with full service with like you guys?
Yeah, low end is about 20% of the nightly rates, and you can get as high as 35% of the nightly rate. Oftentimes, they also keep the cleaning fee, the guest paid cleaning fee. So when you go book on an Airbnb or Vrbo, there's a cleaning fee on there. The management company usually takes that, which in our case we do that too.
Gotcha.
And that goes to cover obviously the cost of cleaning the home.
Cleaning.
So
yeah.
So yeah, there's a pretty wide range. That's what I'm getting to is that depending on market, depending on company, depending on level of service, 20 to 35%. It's a big range, but that's what you should expect.
Hey, everybody. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Vacation Property Secrets podcast. I want to let you know about one question that I get all the time, and that's how do I forecast my cash flow and my profitability when investing in a vacation home? Now, if you've ever wondered that or you know somebody who has, you're in the right place. We've created a free training called Financial Forecasting for Maximum Vacation Home Profitability. Now, in this training, we're going to guide you step by step on how to accurately project rental income, estimate your operating expenses, and calculate your returns so you can make informed investment decisions. You can access the free training at vacationpropertysecrets.com. So if you're ready to dive deeper into financial fundamentals and maximize your profitability, visit vacationpropertysecrets.com. In terms of the hybrid, I mean, the hybrid model is a little bit less, but you're doing more.
Exactly.
And then also, I would think the hybrid method would be the most difficult because the expectations, who's doing what, how's it getting done, what's the delineation?
It would be the hybrid model is particularly difficult because you're right. You basically, what the hybrid model really comes down to is who's going to take care of the back end. So all the software and setting the rates and making sure the cleaner shows up and managing supplies, and who's going to take care of the guests and talking with the guests and making sure they have a great experience. That's usually the dividing line. Just like in a hotel, who's front of house and who's back of house.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. And I have not used the hybrid model. I've got on-site management down in Costa Rica for multiple reasons, but they've got, staffing down there is so inexpensive anyway. And it's kind of nice. I've got a set of 6 villas. So it's not like they're running a single place. They're overlooking a cluster of 6 villas, which is really nice.
Yeah. So you get some economies of scale there too.
Yes, 100%. Right. And that was one of the reasons I even bought it, because it was set up like an Airbnb, but it also has that flexibility where everything's kind of around a single pool and those kind of things.
And that's tricky too. Like, in this, the economies of scale thing is big because again, if you're going to start a management company, being disciplined on location is also important because vacation rentals are tricky. Again, obviously different than hotels, because a hotel in a big box, you just have everything in one place. In our world, most things are so decentralized. Like you don't even have a place usually to go and pick up extra supplies if you need to.
Yeah.
So having, focusing in on one geographic area, and then once you get maybe an opportunity to get a portfolio like what you're talking about, 6 units in one location, you get a package deal, or maybe you have a sales effort that makes that happen. Then you make sense to go into another location, and you just sort of grow by clusters in different places. Yeah.
Now I tell people that all the time. It's like, if you can get a cluster, that's the most economical way to get, like you were saying, because then you've got a cleaning person that might be able to come over here and do both properties or 3 properties or 4 properties. But the other thing is a lot of people have portfolios, and the good thing about portfolio buying is that if you're in a market that's not working, okay, it's so much easier just to sell that one property and then move over to this market that might be crushing for you, as opposed to like if you've got a big apartment complex that you invest in and you pay $40 million, you're not just going
You're
to
stuck.
exit out of that investment and try to move into something else.
That's true. That's a good point. And this rewind all the way back to the beginning and due diligence right at the outset and not making it an emotional decision is really important. Or I guess maybe another way to look at it is like, why are you getting into this? Are you getting into it to make money, or are you just getting into it to maybe subsidize like a really cool house in a cool location that you just love to go travel to? You just want to make a few bucks on the side to like pay for the taxes. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I mean,
understand why you're doing
everybody's
it.
goals are different, right? I mean, the reason you get into it could be very different. But like you said early on, though, if you're really looking to make money, cash flow and to make money, you still got to look at it as a business. You got to take that emotional side out of it. So many people that get into this business don't even understand the analytics behind it. They don't understand the numbers. They don't understand the cash flows. They're not projecting out the operating expenses before they're going in. They're not figuring out what's my maintenance going to be a year. They're not looking at these things, and then they get into it, make an emotional buy, and then wonder why they're not doing as well as they thought they would.
That's exactly right. And there's ways that you can, I think, they're like little cheat codes to help you get to where you want to go to figure out those numbers, because it could be daunting. I mean, you just do a Google search and you can find a million different like investment spreadsheets that'll help you figure out if a place will, an Airbnb in particular, will cash flow. But even if you were to go on Upwork or Fiverr and find consultants to help you just run through the numbers and help you understand some of the ins and outs of running a property like this, that an hour of their time, which might at most cost you $100,
Yeah.
will save you so much in the long run. And they will open your eyes to things I promise that if you're not from the hospitality industry, you're not even thinking about. You don't even know the questions to ask.
No, or the terminology or the structures. I mean, and that's what I try to teach people all the time is kind of like, how do you get that emotion out of the equation and really look at it from an analytical standpoint? You can still love the market. You can still love the house. You can still have all that beautiful emotion wrapped up into it. But if you're really looking to make money or cash flow, put that over here for a second. Let's make sure it works financially and then bring all the love in.
Yeah, that's 100%. You're exactly right. So that's critical. Yeah, I agree with you.
What are some of the bigger challenges that you find? I know that the tenants can be a pain in the butt, right? I mean, most of the time not. Most of the time we get really good tenants and really good people coming in. But how many times do you get that problem tenant that comes in, or maybe it's the party, or maybe it's somebody's done something to the house? How often is that happening?
Yeah, you know what? Not nearly as much as the news might make you believe. It's actually pretty rare, but I will tell you that there are things that you can do to make sure that you're filtering your guests as well, which is again, a whole other level to this that is probably a different episode. But parties is obviously the big one. And there's a few things that we do, and that's, we didn't rewrite the rules, like reinvent the wheel. A lot of companies are doing the same thing that we're doing. We employ noise monitors in the homes. We tell guests about it up front. We do a verification check on every reservation that comes in through a service that is connected to our property management system. We keep the rates relatively high. We don't allow one-night stays, and we don't allow same-day bookings. So there's 5 or 6 things that you can do. If somebody's looking to come in and have a party, they're looking for, same-day booking, cheap rate, and not have to jump through any hoops to get the booking.
Yeah. So they'll just move on to the next property.
Just move on to the next property. Let it be someone else's issue.
Yeah. If this is going to sound terrible, but I had no idea that noise monitors existed.
They do. They're so slick too. Oh man, they made our life so much easier. There's a company the one that we use is Minut, INUT, and it looks like a smoke detector. It just goes on the ceiling.
Yeah.
In a high traffic area, but not like in an area that would, like a kitchen would probably have a lot of noise. So you might have some issues with that, but you put it in a high traffic area. Look, it even detects smoke. And I believe that they've even got a new version out now that's detecting the number of cell phones in a location. So there's a decibel meter or decibel level on it. You can set up a whole automation on the back end where If the decibel level gets to a certain amount, you send out a message to the guest. And anyway, it's pretty detailed, but it has been a lifesaver on a few
Wow.
occasions.
Do people complain about that at all, thinking maybe that you're listening in on them or, those
Yeah,
kind of things?
they do. They do. So it's really important to let people know that you've got these things up front. Like it literally, don't wait until they book to tell them. Put it in your listing. And if you go through, especially on Airbnb, they've put in quite a few restrictions, but also requirements for managers of properties in what they have to disclose. Noise monitors is one of them. Cameras is another one. Cameras inside the home are a straight up no-go. Like you just can't do it. If you have a camera on property, it has to be outside, but it can't even be looking at the property, potentially see inside a window or inside a door. If you're going to have basically cameras have to be facing outwards from the property. So like doorbell cameras are okay. Ring cameras like at an entrance are okay. But anything that starts to potentially create those privacy concerns, yeah, you got to read the regulations.
So you don't put the bathroom cam in.
Definitely not.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm thinking about, some of the issues that people face when they're managing. And one of the things that really I'm starting to see more of now, it might not be common, but of course it's different. So you see more of it, and that's squatters coming in, maybe renting a home and then not leaving. Have you run into that at all?
Fortunately not. We haven't had that happen to us, but it is a very real concern. And I've had this question asked by owners or potential owners when we're in that sales process to try to bring on a new owner. We use Wi-Fi door locks that create a new code for every guest every single time a reservation comes and goes. And the old code gets deleted. So you can't go back a week later and, maybe that the place is vacant and you just go like walk in and take everything. So the code stops working. And quite frankly, there's not a lot that you can do if that happens to you in the moment. I think the thing that this goes back to trying to create filters for the people that stay with you and systems that are in place to try and mitigate the danger as best as you can. And Wi-Fi door locks so that you can change the code on the fly, super important. Is there a risk that someone is going to take your lock off and put their lock on? Of course. But there's nothing you can do about that. There's no system you can put in place. We have started to get into the world of medium-term rentals. And so for anybody who doesn't know, that's basically a rental that is more than 30 days, but less than a year. And one of our requirements in that is that you have to buy bi-weekly cleaning from us, which it's a requirement. It's written into the lease and you got to pay for it as a guest. But what that allows is for us to get eyes on the property consistently to see what's going on in the house. And so that's a big security measure to try to mitigate this stuff. So if a cleaner goes in, because I think it's more likely to happen on a medium-term rental than it is for somebody who's just going in for a couple of nights.
Yeah.
And they'll see if anything is going wrong or there's like some weird operation going on in the place or they've changed the lock. Again, there's, you just got to kind of think through the things that are within your control and just put systems in place to try to get your arms around them. And then, I don't want to say hope for the best, but in some cases, you just you got to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to the management side, what do you think some of the bigger misconceptions people have before they get into it, and then they get into it and they're like, oh man, boy, I missed the boat on that one.
That it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
Not easy. It's not easy. I think if you don't come from a hospitality background, making the shift to not even a 24-hour operation, because that's really what you're running all of a sudden, but it's that when everybody is off, you are on. Because when they're off, they're staying with you. So your Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 just disappeared. So you're working weekends, you're working holidays. Like, that's just how it is. You
Yeah.
get used to it. And if you don't want to do that, this is not the thing for you, or hire a management company to take care of that stuff for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I can see that 100%. Because again, people think they can just buy something and then all of a sudden they're in business and it's just going to, yeah, somebody's going to leave you alone on that weekend.
Mhm.
And then you get that phone call that the hot water heater's down, the toilet's backed up, the heat's not working, whatever it
Door
might
code's
be.
not working. Place wasn't cleaned. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't like the color of the walls in here. Like, literally, you will get complaints about it, anything and everything. And
Yeah.
how you respond to those is the differentiator.
Well, not just complaints. I mean, I got a text message last night, or I should say my manager did. I am on the text messages and somebody said, hey, our people that we're going out to Costa Rica with got a better rate than us.
Mm.
Oh, what are you going to
Mhm.
do about it? And that was at 10 o'clock last night, right? And
Yep.
there's my manager at 10 o'clock, just, answering the call.
That's right. That's right. All of those things will come up.
Yeah.
And it's so be prepared to deal with those things. The
Mm.
thing that like, we've gone through a couple of inflection points in our company this year. We've had quite a bit of growth. This is the year where things have really taken off for us. And if you are fortunate enough to get to a position like that, scaling your business is a challenge, is a kind of a more senior challenge down the road that admittedly, like, I hadn't really thought about. And I mean, you can think about it a little bit, but until you're in it, you're like, man, all of my systems don't work anymore. I need to rethink this entire business, or I need help doing X, Y, and Z. That's probably something that I should have done much earlier in our company's journey, is recognizing, okay, what are the thresholds to when I need to start bringing in help, and what is the help that I need? So the places for us, and I imagine a lot of other management companies will struggle with, is guest communications. It's just that response time and handling the volume of responses, especially when you start getting past like 2, 3, 4, 5 properties. It just starts, you're just getting alerts on your phone
Yeah.
pretty constantly. But honestly, the other stuff is like you can automate rates. I mean, it's not ideal to set it and forget it, but you can get by with that for a while. Counting is the other thing that really quickly became a challenge for us, because accounting in hospitality is different than accounting everywhere else. And then within that, the subset of hospitality, the accounting in the vacation rental world is even different than accounting in the hotel world. So finding an accountant that knows the industry, that works with property managers in vacation rentals, will save you a lot of headaches. And it took us about 2 years to find the right person. There's companies out there that are doing it specifically for vacation rentals. But I would say guest comms and accounting are your 2 hit list items.
Two big ones. Yeah, for sure. So what about, I want people, number one, I want people to be able to go out and find you, learn about what you're doing, learn about your company, and learn about you. Where would you want people to go to find you?
You could go to our website, recreationstays.com. It's got everything about the company, the properties that we manage. If you want to rent one of our properties, we're listed on there too. Direct booking website. It's got a little bio about me and the company. Everything's there. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Gotcha. And then just one last question before we go. And by the way, the time just has swung by really quickly with this. I tell you, I have about 500 more questions. We might have to do this again because
Sure.
management is such a big deal in the whole equation. Matter of fact, it's probably one of the most important pieces of the puzzle after you've bought that property, is having good management in place, whether that's you or whether that's you.
Sure.
And, so many people, I think, don't understand how complex it's going to be. So I think we could have a whole nother conversation. But if you could impart on folks one piece of what you think would be the most valuable advice for that person who's getting into the industry, or maybe they have just started in the industry and want to know a little bit about, if I was going to focus in on this, what piece of advice would you give them?
What do you like? Put yourself in the guest's shoes. If you're starting in this industry, at some point in your life, you've stayed in a hotel. At some point in your life, you've very likely stayed in a vacation rental. What are the things that you like and you hate? and start to build your experience around what you want, because it's what you know. And then it'll refine and grow from there.
Love it. Adam, thanks for coming on the show today, my friend.
Happy to be here, Rodman. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Vacation Property Secrets podcast. If you enjoyed the show, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. By leaving a review, you not only support the show, but you also help others find and enjoy it just like you did. Also, please share this episode with somebody who could benefit from it. And if you're aiming to build a short-term vacation rental investment business that's based on strong investment fundamentals and not just emotion, I'd love to invite you to a free training that I'm hosting. It's my financial forecasting for maximum vacation home profitability training, an on-demand video course that's completely free. It walks you through the investment fundamentals to build and scale your short-term vacation rental business. You'll also learn how to estimate investment income and your operating expenses to build a projected pro forma operating statement and the potential NOI and return on investment for your property. Just go to vacationpropertysecrets.com to get access to your free training. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Vacation Property Secrets podcast.